Hey everyone, and welcome to this next edition of the Snapchat. As always, I'm joined today by none other than Cozy Snap. Cozy, how you doing today, my friend?
What's up, man? Doing well. It's a glorious day. It's a glorious day. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, the variant you have in the center of the screen is haunting me. We got that dead-eye Leech just staring us in the face, waiting for its judgment day that's dropping on it on this Snapchat here. Cozy, I am so excited to have this conversation with you because, it's been a wild week. I feel like we open every Snapchat saying the same thing. It has been a truly wild week in terms of the meta, and Leech is in the middle of it. We got Nimrod as well coming out today. We're going to be talking about both of them, and we're also going to be talking about major changes to the rank and location systems, which is huge, absolutely huge. They're listening to the community, Cozy, and that's great news.
Yeah, man. Listen, I loved the new locations. I want more new locations, and we'll talk about that. But 48 hours was way too long, and then you combine that with the other 24, and that's almost half the week. So, yes, very glad they changed that, bud.
Yeah, so it's great to see that Second Dinner is, listening community feedback and making notable changes to kind of reflect, I'm sure, what they're seeing in their metrics as well to make this game the best it can be. So Cozy, let's get right into it. The first thing I'll say is that, guys, if you aren't aware, we do two separate episodes here, and on Cozy's side, we talked about the buffs and the nerfs for March 2023. We talked about developer questions and answers, which, Cozy, I gotta tell you, was probably one of my favorite segments we've done in a while.
Yep.
Awesome. Can't wait to do that again. And our Marvel Snap wish list. So at the end of this video and in the description and the comment section, I will be providing links to Cozy's video where you can get the second half. But outside of that, guys, let's get started. Now, Leech, Cozy, is a huge topic of discussion right now. And I think for good reason. And it's a complex discussion because Leech serves a very important role in Marvel Snap, right? It is the balance that has to exist for these wild turn 6 shenanigans, which can just be a little too oppressive at times, right? We got some cards that can be pretty damn wild. But at the same time, Cozy, Leech can feel terrible.
Yeah, You know what's great? We have a brand new season. Brand new. Nimrod's out, which I'll talk about that in a second on our next subject. I do think they need to have a bit more iconic characters for season passes. Black Panther, even MODOK. But Leech is probably by far the most mentioned card that I've had this week, and usually that is Nimrod by a far amount or the season pass character. My comments have been littered with Leech, and I understand the hate. It's very complex. In the Q&A section of my part of the video, we had one of the lead balance designers talk about Leech specifically, and I think what he does well, Alex, is he talks about disruptors as a whole and why, of course, they're going to feel not great, and you're going to have extra anger towards those cards, right? Death Wave, it's annoying, but it's, there's things you can do. But then when you have things like Leader or Leech or just these other cards that completely frustrate you and disable your play, kind of like bad locations, it's the first thing that you're going to think of to be angry about, right? So they did say this on Leech specifically, that most card games, ours included, manage keeping many different cards fun and strong by ensuring there's counter play. And essentially, they're talking about the designers having a close eye on disrupt your counter plays and that they don't sneak their way into more of the top decks to use them as additive cards for even more stomping on the other decks. And I thought that was a great way to talk about what they call release valves and ones that are restricting players. That's why things like, obviously Black Bolt probably has not been touched up. They need to be careful with those and the over abuse of the counterplay that you would be having with the card. And so Leech might be towards the top of those frustrating counterplay cards that you have to be careful with. And they are monitoring his use overall. He's got to exist, but it's got to be in a different way, in my opinion.
It's interesting that you say that he has to exist, because I do agree. And I think that Sandman kind of resolves a bit of the turn 6 crazy combo plays. Leader obviously did that as well, but Leader was extremely non-interactive and probably wasn't healthy for the game, and now has been completely thrown off to the wayside. Yeah,
lazy card.
But Leech, I think the problem with Leech is that it's one of those cards that completely dismantles the play pattern and the play opportunity of a player. Like when you're playing a card game, you're playing a card game because you like to play cards, right? Because you want to play with the cards that you've built, that you have a deck with in mind that has certain synergies. And while Leech is important, it completely robs your cards of their identity. And I think that's important to understand. The identity of Magneto completely changes when it gets hit by Leech. The identity of Black Panther completely changes. The identity of Galactus, of Null, all these cards completely changes when it's impacted by Leech. And so suddenly the impact of it can feel awful for the player that's being affected, because now they just can't play the game the way they intended. And of course, it's a counterplay, but at the same time, its effect is so negative that it could, like we talked about fun factor. Leech is extremely unfun to have played against you because it renders your hand effectively useless unless you intended for your hand to be useless by like holding an Infinite for the Leech play.
Yeah, man, Leech is tricky. He's a tricky one, and I think there are some decent ability suggestions that you could do to Leech. And Leader, right, they went right for the head. They completely killed that card. How do you not kill off Leech while also making him have to exist in the game? These are some of my favorite ones, and let me say all three, Alex, and then you tell me which one you think would be the best fit for Leech, or maybe he stays the same, right? So number one, Leech is a 4/3, and on reveal removes the abilities of all 1 to 3 cost cards from your opponent's hands. So those are the combo setups. Those are the little ones. And the stance behind that was Shang-Chi and other cards are already existing to take care of the higher cost cards. Yes and no. I think that one's interesting. The next one, and this one I think is probably my favorite, is that Leech only removes the abilities for the next turn.
That's my favorite. That's what I was before you even did the list. That was what I was going to say.
No question.
That is by far my favorite, because if it gets lockjawed out or time stoned out, like it solves the problem. And it provides counterplay, meaningful counterplay, where like I can be like, I just ain't playing my comp. I'm not playing Nimrod yet. I'm not playing Zola. I'm gonna hold it on. Hey, I played Electro. I can play Zola turn 6. That's fine. I can, you know what I mean? It's like,
and then you dedicate it. Like if you have, let's say the player plays it on 5, they dedicate it on 5. Well, okay, they don't get the power, right? So they're using that to shut down your 6, and that's why they have Leech in the game. They stated that, right, to shut down the decks that just hold on to these big cards. And so I do think that would be the easiest fix for the time stone, for all the interactions that are Leech. Would it fix the lockjaw problem? Like, yes and no. But I do like that. The other one I saw, just to say the third one, was that Leech hits 3 cards in your hand or like half your hands. The reason I don't like that is because I swear to God, it's going to be Iceman all over again, right? Like, you don't want to lose to the RNG of like, let's take 2 cards that work together, right? Like a Wong and a Gambit. And your Gambit gets hit, but you have Wong. It's like, well, you know, that would happen, I think, more than often. So, yeah, we both agree that it would be for the next turn only.
Yeah, and there's another kind of point to be said, too, that, like, a fourth option could be that, like, Leech's on reveal is that the next card your opponent plays has its ability removed. So then you play, if you have multiple cards, you play your 1-drop, like your Titania, and you're like, haha, and then you play your Devil Dino or whatever, right?
Yep.
It provides counterplay. So it's very similar. Like those random ones, like hitting all the 1 to 3s and hitting random in your hand, like that feels awful. If it's like Nakia, like how awful does it feel to play Nakia half the time? Like it's just like the original Nakia was random, then it made it only the left side, and then it's like, what are we even doing at this point, right? Like it's still a card that feels terrible to play half the time, even though I've seen it more often than I would expect, honestly. But you get what I mean, right? That random side feels weird.
You pulled, this is perfect to transition to one thing about disruptors in general, the chance to counterplay. So Arrow, right? Arrow's a frustrating card. Right now, the way she pulls cards is random. If she pulled cards by playing, right? So if it was like the first card played and then the second card, what does it do, Alex? It still disrupts, but it gives you the chance to, 5-head it and have a counterplay to what they might do. So you do play your Titania first, and then you play your main card, or whatever that might be. It's another way to have the disruption, but have there be a window of counterplay.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that is missing from Leech. There's no counter. There's no counterplay at all. You just don't get to play your cards. You get to play solitaire. And that is the problem. And I think that these solutions we're offering, they give you the opportunity to counterplay the Leech effect, because yes, it's effective, but it's like completely like dismantling. And for a card game, you want to have cards that do their intended effect. But like, of course, like nothing exists in a vacuum. Leech has to exist. We understand that. It is the necessary evil, because without Leech, Deathwave, Galactus, and everything else goes absolutely insane. but I love the solutions you're providing right now.
Here's the thing I will say about Leech, though, and like why I don't have a video that says a video standpoint around Leech or Arrow or Leader at the time. Leader definitely needed to be fixed, but at the same time, I don't necessarily uber hate Leech. He's annoying. I think he's very annoying. He's a one cuber for the most part, or at least if they snapped ahead of time, then maybe you're pretty screwed then. But if I get Leech for the most part, I'll look at the hand and be like, I'm out. And the same thing could happen with Sokovia getting rid of one of my favorite cards too. So that's the way I view Leech. I get, guys, I'm a half glass full guy and most people hate me for it. But personally, yes, I see him. I've been in some tournaments. Guys, I went against him so many times in tournament play. And guess what? All was okay. There's ways around it. I don't know. I think he is the flavor of the month. This is where I will have a small standpoint for the people that argue about the nerf chasing. God, it's exhausting, guys. In my comment section, I used to love, but when there's a new flavor of the month card, I'll be honest, guys, it sucks. I hate it. I know Regis, another buddy, talked about it on Twitter. He wanted to ban the word Leech from his... I can't even... If I were to say, man, I like Marvel Snap's music, I would get 200 comments about why Leech is the worst card in the game. And I'll be honest, guys, that's annoying. It just sucks. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. And it feels like it's a new flavor of the month. We did Zapper, which... They fixed it correctly, but we can't always hate something because there will always be a card to hate. So it's this middle ground. And Leader, obviously, and I think Leech, I don't know if he's the last one, but it's like the extreme of no fun zone is probably why he's coming up more often. And I get it 100%. I do stand for it. I just wanted to point out the other side, if you will.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And I got to be honest with you, my comment section is the exact same. Everything I see is the exact same, except the difference between you and I is I think I got sucked into the let's hate Leech zeitgeist a little bit because I fell for it. I'm like, that card hit me and I'm just like, no, I am done with Leech, man. So I took the bait. But what I will say though, is that there is something to be said about really destroying an opponent's hand.
Yeah.
And I think that in card games, that is something that has to be revered. And I'm not a designer, but at the same time, it's like Leech does something to someone's hand. Someone joined a game of Marvel Snap because they wanted to play cards, and Leech was like, no.
Right? Well, and it's funny because Black Bolt only gets rid of one card, right? Whereas Leech, essentially, let's be honest, pretty much gets rid of most of them, right? Even if you can use one or two of them, it's funny how they're like, Black Bolt, no more than one. But Leech, F it, let's nuke the hand. It is interesting for sure.
And the other side to it too, and it's that, think about what our 6 costs are. There's such iconic cards. The cards, this Marvel Snap game, we have a fixation on the combo-centric play in the later half of the game. We talked about, off camera, ironically, this is a topic for another day perhaps, but how the earlier terms are often just skipped. No one plays turn 1. Because why? Why bother? It's the end of the game that matters. But and maybe Leech helps to kind of bring that turn 1 back because no, the end of the game can't be as reliable. But at the same time, all the most iconic cards are these huge turn 6 cards. Thanos, we have Galactus, we have Kang, we have all these end game cards that are supposed to be so impactful. They have the biggest flavors, the biggest splashes, the biggest effects, the biggest hype moments. And they are the ones that get destroyed by Leech. And what happens, though, when they release a season pass card that's a 6 cost, like Galactus, but not actually Galactus, you know what I mean? A high-impact 6 cost season pass card. And then everyone that wants to play it is just like, well, Leech is just going to hit me. You know what I mean? And so it completely deflates the excitement. So it's this weird balance between being an important tech card, a necessary evil, and also kind of making the game feel less fun.
But it's tough for them, right? Because if I have a Gambit Exodia combo I'm about to pull off, yeah, that's more fun for me, right? But Leech exists to get rid of the non-fun for the opponent. But yes, I do understand. I get both sides. It's funny, Alex, if we try to predict right now, it's March, okay? So April, I would say probably, if you guys want to get ahead of the hate train, probably Arrow if Leech is changed and Arrow's not. And if it's not Arrow, it's going to be Cosmo. It's other disruptors that are overplayed or played a lot because of how powerful the cards they counter are, right? If you have a meta and these cards are to stop that meta, you need them in there, and then you see them all the time. And so it's just when does it stop? What's your prediction? Arrow and Cosmo, right? What else would be there?
First of all, I agree 100%. This idea of constantly witch hunting cards is completely unnecessary, right? But what I will say though is Arrow can win games even if she's a -5,000. Like, Arrow will still win games because you're winning 2 locations you disrupted. Like, Arrow could literally be a negative a million power card and you still win playing her, which is insane. Cosmo, I actually would be shocked if it got changed, if it got nerfed. Because Cosmo, think about it, Cosmo comes out as a 3/3, which is kind of low on the power scale. And not only that, but you have to play around it yourself. Like, you could completely screw yourself with Cosmo. Right? Like, it is an effect that can negatively impact yourself as well. So adding Cosmo to your deck list it has a higher skill cap than I think that other cards do. So I would be surprised to see Cosmo be changed, honestly, because I think it's in a pretty good spot. Like, that's just me. Yes, it's being used a lot, but I think it's cool. I think it's a good card.
I mean, so here's the deal. I'm never going to be mad about you talking good things about my Marvel Snap wife and Arrow. I will say that's one of the ways you win with her. I disagree. I think if they brought her down too much, like, you would take away some of that, but there's plenty of times where, like, I'm winning one lane, he's winning one lane, and I have to play Arrow on a lane that is going to be close. So I do get what you're saying though, like the essential power. And with Cosmo's just interesting because of Enchantress and or Rogue, the other side. But the answer to that is ongoing, so you can kind of like nuke that and nip it. Whereas like on reveal, you have to be a bit more. You got to think a little bit more with Cosmo, which I kind of think it rewards that, at the same time. When 2 people have Cosmo and 2 lanes of Cosmo, it's rough, It's like it takes away, because I don't know, half the cards are on reveal, if not more than that, right? But it's maybe it stops at Leech. Maybe it does. But I just want to encourage, like, guys, I get it. Like, Nimrod came out and you got, and Leech was out in the wild. Thanos is still doing his thing, but like, don't forget to have fun with the game. If you're not having fun with Snap, then, that's a whole nother issue. But yes, Leech is a necessary evil that he doesn't need to be Satan. He needs to just be like just a demon. He needs to be a little bit mean.
Yeah. Can we agree that I think the best idea is having the 1-turn effect? I think like that by far. Like, that's a great starting point. And if they find that doesn't solve the issue, then like revisit it. Yep. Revisit it. Right? Because I don't think it's overpowered. I think that playing it cleanly on turn 5 is absolutely 100% okay. Like 100%. That's why it exists. But I think with the Time Stone, I think with the even Electro Ramp, honestly, like, you get it on turn 4. It's crazy. Like, it's incredibly powerful in Electro Ramp. We're kind of forgetting about Electro Ramp here. Like, it is still super good in any ramp list.
Well, that's the thing, right? When you have a deck right now that's at a 65 or 62 plus whatever win rate, and Leech is a part of it, that's one of the main issues. Because it's everywhere. It is everywhere right now, right? And it's like, yeah, because then it would just go into Electric Ramp if you do fit Thanos, right? And he still coexists into Snap's, ecosphere. Right now, it's the perfect combination of what Thanos is capable of. We haven't really seen a meta this dominant in a while. Even in the Zabu days, there was other cards, there was other decks. Zabu was used in multiple different ways. I think it's the combination of the meta, the card, all of it, right? But yes, absolutely. I think Leech can definitely get some love or hate, whatever way you look at it, as far as card nerfs go.
Yeah, and I guess what we'll end with on this topic is, like, let's leave it to the hand of the game development professionals to allow them to kind of take the reins on this balance here. I think I don't know about you, I'm done talking about Leech for a bit because it is literally all I hear about, all I see. And with that being said, like, I think they come from a place of merit, right? It's a very non-interactive card that hopefully gets adjusted appropriately in the future. But Cozy, the next card we got to talk about is something that actually gets impacted by Leech ever so slightly. Well, at least its combo play does. And that is Jigglypuff. Nimrod. So we got Nimrod here. No, this Jigglypuff has been doing push-ups. Actually, this Jigglypuff does not skip leg day. Look at those thighs.
I didn't even notice those thighs.
I didn't notice until I was stalking right now about push-ups. This Jigglypuff does not skip leg day. It's actually more of a Clefairy. I said Jigglypuff before, but anyways. If you don't
like Pokemon, you're massively confused. Nimrod, guys. It is Nimrod week. He just came out. What do we think about Nimrod? Let's talk about our favorites. Just everything about him. It's 101 combos, ways you're using him right now. Don't even say the L word. We don't need to, right? We've already talked about that enough. Nimrod is what I think brings something that I would like into other archetypes. And again, we kind of didn't want the Zabu. We wanted something more archetype specific. And so then we got the Modok. Now we have our Destroy one. Destroy is weird because Destroy was already in a decent spot. But what I like about this, and hopefully will be the future for a lot of different archetypes, is a new win condition, a new flavor to it. Because then what does that do? It really opens up not only deck design, but strategy, competitive play. Destroy was as straightforward as it got, man. And I think Nimrod offers combos outside of using Wave, who's not a destroy card all the time, with Death. And so I'm actually loving Nimrod. I'm enjoying playing the big pink Arnold Schwarzenegger. Where are you using Nimrod at the moment?
So I've been doing a lot of experimentation with Nimrod. I have found the deck list to be a little less consistent than I would like, but I do find that it provides Destroy with additional reach, which I think it lacked. Like, you had reach into locations with like Wolverine, but it was very unreliable. Yep. So Nimrod does give you additional reach, which I think can be extremely valuable for a deck list like Destroy. But ultimately, sometimes it's funny because like in so many of the decks that I had where I designed Nimrod to be a core part of it, I often found myself thinking, do I really want to play Nimrod here? Even if I had it in my hand, turn 5 or whatever it was, I'm like, do I really want to play Nimrod, or does this other card that I have just do the job better? And I felt like I was often in those situations where I just chose that other card. And so it's a weird spot because like, I don't think this is a bad card. I just don't think we've quite figured out the right spot for it. And we also have, I'm forgetting the name all of a sudden. Was it Teenage Warhead that's coming out soon?
Yeah.
The 3/2 that blows up. Like that card, all of a sudden, like, okay, hold on. That is some cool synergy, right? So like we're literally within the month where Nimrod might get a major synergistic card, right? Which is kind of neat. So Nimrod deck building has been a little interesting. I loved your video, by the way. I thought you had a lot of creative decks and good starting points for it. But like, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are, specifically with like the competitiveness of it, because I often found myself wanting a little more.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to hate to hear it, right? Shuri obviously is a natural fit that goes with Nimrod, and it's not only Shuri, it is Destroyer and Arnhem. So you have two different things that can work. If they leech you go Destroyer, you get a fat 15 power for free. If they don't, you can do Arnhem Zola. Both of them spread Nimrod a ton. It's kind of like a Deadpool in the sense of you don't want to get too cute trying to buff it, right? Like you don't want to like, I've seen decks it's like Nokia, Forge, all of it. Doesn't work. It does and it doesn't at the same time. You can kind of blend that with Deadpool. And then you have two cards that you're trying to like kind of build up over the course of the game. Ramp is obviously what people are enjoying because it's a 5 cost and it can feel awkward. And certainly I think Ramp does work. I am finding playing him on 5 and having a big turn 6, whether that's really a number of ways. You can do Sarah, and then you can go ahead and do Nimrod plus Carnage. But yeah, if I was like looking at cards that work the best with him, I would say the Destroyer and Galactus are clearly at the top. Just very good play with both of them. And again, Destroyer is good because of the Leech era at the moment. Also, I find Deathlock to be pretty consistent with the card. It's 3 power. You get another 5 on top of that, and then you continue to spread. Really, those low-cost Destroy cards is what's working because you can play multiple. I mean, you could theoretically do a Carnage and a Deathlock on the same turn. You can have Absorbing Man in there, so those work. And then, I think Nova is a good low-cost boost card that could work, that you don't have to do extra steps. You can have the forefront to play Nova, then play Nimrod on top of it. And then Venom, man. Venom's just so fun. And Venom's
great.
He works with Arnhem Zola, too,
One thing I will say that kind of took me by surprise with Nimrod was how easy it was to still lose despite having a lot of things go well. Like, for instance, there's a combination of Electro turn 3, and then you have Nimrod turn 4, turn 5, Arnhem Zola into Destroyer turn 6, and there's just Nimrods like everywhere. Like, they're just flying everywhere.
You can
the animation's something to behold, and then like you're like, oh, they're all just 5 power, and it's like, and there's just Shuri and Red Skull just like LOL. Like, it's just like, damn it, like it didn't actually do anything. But I do think that this card is pretty cool, and like it's one of those cards, Cozy, and we bring it up all the time, right? We bring it up all the time. It's like there's gonna be something that comes out. Like this card's gonna be one of the most OP cards eventually. Like there's gonna be something that comes out. They're like, ah, damn, it's Nimrod's time. You know what I mean? We waited for Black Bull forever, and we're still kind of waiting. Stature's awesome, but it's still 6,000 tokens, right? But like Nimrod's time will come, I think. And I don't know, like right off the top of your head, are there any changes you'd make, like gut reaction, just like right off the top of your head, gut reaction, what would you do to this card if you had to change it?
No, I don't think it needs to change. I really don't. I don't think it needs to be like I don't think it needs to be a top, in crazy card. I mean, people, it's so funny. It's like we get Zabu, everyone's mad. It's the season pass card. Then we get one that's like even. It's like, this sucks. And then it is interesting. I would say day one gut reactions to me are hilarious because it's like, guys, we're so far from figuring it out. I could point out other cards that immediately kind of like it's okay, and then it does really well, or it's overhyped.
Thanos?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, seriously.
Yeah, literally Thanos
Or Kang.
was like
or
basically this conversation.
Yeah, Noel, Kang, even like Kang, it's like, he's not that good. It's like, you just wait. We don't know yet to allow it to kind of fit into the brilliant minds that are the community. With Nimrod, I think anything at 5 costs immediately is just a bit more tricky. I think it adds to pool 1 and 2 massively because of destroy options that they don't have. And so it's actually nice to have something there. Where I love to use them is Cerebro 5. Now, Cerebro 5, I will be having a video on here, but, essentially we're having all 5 power cards. And, Alex, if you filter by power, there is not a lot of 5 power cards in Marvel Snap. It's actually a lot tougher to make happen than you think. But now,
I want to hear this pitch because this sounds like a total pipe dream. So I'm listening, but I am highly skeptical.
Yeah, no worries, man. I've been playing with it a little bit. Obviously, it's Cerebro. I mean, it's going to have its problems that everybody knows. And I will say, though, what's great about it is it does remove one style of location, and that is destroy locations. You welcome them, right? You're like, okay, I got Death Domain. It's going to work a little bit better now. But essentially, Dr. Doom and Nimrod alone, if you could pull that combo off, you're getting several 5s across the board pretty quickly. But you can get cheeky. You have Polaris moving a card, which means the next turn you can also play Miles Morales. Both are 5 cost. You can essentially do that for 4 power, 2 more cards. You have Omega Red. They're 5 cost. They're a lot, so you're going to be able to boost that up. Him included as well as his bonus. Things like cheeky options like Star-Lord, who is a 2 cost, but if you happen to land him, he's a 5 cost. So Cerebro 5, will it be in the same conversation as Cerebro 2 and 3? I don't know. We'll have to see. Cerebro has so much going against it, but I think it is a fun way to play it. And I will tell you this, at least for the time being, nobody is expecting it. I mean, nobody. No. You're playing these cards, and they can't really put the math together, right? Like, it's just not as obvious. So it's a fun home. I don't know if it's super meta, but it's a fun home.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Cerebro's like one of my favorite cards in the game. Like, if I could play just Cerebro decks like to infinite, I would do it. But like the inconsistency, the location punishment, like there's so the scorpions, there's so much that just dismantles our little guy Cerebro. So I love the fact that I'm gonna watch that video. I'm gonna love it because like it is one of my favorite cards in the game.
What's funny is what's cool though is if you don't get Cerebro or you only get Cerebro and not Mystique, it just performs better because they're higher cost cards, and that's where it's like something like Polaris and Miles, like they actually have a lot of value now. Like Miles at a 1/5 is like, but if you play him in a Cerebro 5, you'd start to get that value a lot more. So again, there are so many other places that you can start to try to use these cards. Guys, is it gonna beat Thanos? No, like I don't think every season pass the thing has to answer to the meta, but you want it to be competitive. You want it to be playable and win with it. Right now, though, if you want to go against a competitive scene, it's going to be a mix of a Shuri, Arnim Zola Destroyer deck. That's where I'm kind of find the best homes for Nimrod at the moment. Any other juicy decks you have? I will say this too, Alex, as far as a tip. Guys, make sure your lanes are set up for Nimrod. You don't want to, like, a great thing you could do is throw Ant-Man in a deck, have 2 spots filled, and then you put in the Nimrod and have it sneak in there, boost up the Ant-Man. If you're just dropping Nimrod and then you're dropping a Deathlock, it's pretty telegraphable. So you have to be somewhat surprising still with the card, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely higher skill cap than people gave it credit for. And one thing that I thought was really neat with the Nimrod was like the interactions it has with Zola. Like you get more Nimrods than perhaps you originally expected, which is kind of cool. I actually was just thinking about this. Like in your Cerebro deck, are you running someone like Zola? Because if you Zola the Dr. Doom,
of
like
course.
that's immaculate.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So I went against Snapster on release of with Nimrod decks, and he had no idea what I was running. He's like, like a move breed, because Polaris, Miles, and then I did the Doom, and he's like, and then the Artem, and it's like, it just gets out of control. You can also do a ramp build into Cerebro 5, because a lot of these cards kind of need that extra power play. You do have to take out the Miles and Polaris. For the most part, it's a little weird if you don't. You could play Polaris on 3, and if you happen to have Electro and Miles, then maybe you could play both of them. But you go for more of a Sandman approach. And this is where I think Cerebro has a good home, too, with Nimrod as a new card. Because Nimrod and Dr. Doom are incredible for, obviously, filling up multiple locations. You're going to need the extra help. You're going to need the extra energy. But if you limit the opponent and you're able to play Nimrod, Doom, and get some more stuff going, Is it any better than Arnim Zola Doom, or is it any better than an Absorbing Man after Doom or an Odin? But it is kind of cool. It does work well with Sandman.
Yeah, you're selling me on it, actually. I like it. I like it. And I think this is a great point to transition here into just like, okay, we're talking about Nimrod a lot, and I think there's a lot of emphasis when we talk about season passes on the card itself. And I think that's fair because, I mean, with the card acquisition as difficult as it is at time of recording, right? I know they're working on it, but at time of recording, card acquisition's hard. Like, I don't know about you, Cozy. For me, it's like, I'm almost relieved that I guess just get to pay money and get a card. Like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I get to just give you $20 and get a card. Here's $20. Like,
right.
Like that's how hard the card acquisition is, right? So we focus so much on the card acquisition and the card of the season pass. But Cozy, I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite season passes we've ever had. And it's not about Nimrod. It's about everything else. It's about everything else in the package that I think is so awesome this season that I think is getting kind of swept under the rug with all the discussions about Nimrod and Leech and other things. Like, this season pass is great.
Dude,
I think it's great.
It's
like,
X-Men. What is there not to love about X-Men? And I will say this, Nimrod was just kind of a weird card to like have as the forefront, maybe. Like, you know, maybe they lead with an X-Men like Jean Grey there, something that they haven't really like.
Yeah.
I'd probably, because again, if you're like a casual snapper or like you who's not into Marvel, you're just like, who the hell is this guy? Right?
I was like, what? Who the hell is Nimrod? Like, I saw this picture. I'm like, what?
Right. And
like if you told me, like, I want you to draw the most, there it is. Look at it. It's basically that. Oh my God. Cozy. This is gold.
This was from my video. I'm like, hey guys, if you don't know what the heck it is, this is kind of what you're probably thinking, right? Like, it's so funny. It's just
you got to do the audio viewers justice here. You got to do the description.
Yeah, we got a
a
Jigglypuff plus a Machamp equals a Nimrod. It's essentially the crossbreed. If you breed them together, this is probably what you would get. And I can't find the other photos that I had supporting it here. But yes, the variants.
The Jigglypuff. I just love Jigglypuff. Look at it. It's making me so happy.
It's incredible, right? But yeah, man, you kind of talked about it, right? The whole season pass is pretty dang cool. We get a Dan hit, which is always welcomed, right?
Awesome.
As the variants. The Sentinel variant, delicious. The card back, haunting.
That's awesome.
And obviously the Wolverine is just cool. Wolverine has a lot of good variants, but this one's awesome.
Getting the Dan hit variant I think is awesome. We've been getting some really awesome variants, Like the Savage Land variants were awesome. These ones are awesome too. The card back is beautiful. That red card back there, the X-Men card back.
Yep.
The Infinite card back is absolutely insane in yellow too. They're both awesome. I like the red one. The yellow one's fantastic as well. I'm a huge fan of unlocking kind of like the variants along the way as well. Like just overall being able to engage with the progression of a season pass, I think is valuable. And we do know that on their roadmap, they want to improve these season caches as well, which I think is a very valuable thing, right? There's just a lot to like. I mean, they clearly put effort into the quality of the content of the season pass. And
yep.
I think that as time goes on, I think they're going to improve the quality of the season passes and make them much more enticing, which I think is a good thing because I think the more season passes they sell, the more that we get to support the game. And for those of us that are buying the season pass, it feels great to get like a little bit of value for your money, right? And I just think that they're starting to really get in tune with like what people want in these season passes because I think this is one of the best ones by far. Like the art and everything's incredible.
I want to end on this subject with a question for you. And because we talked about how they can change some cards. We've talked about buffs and nerfs. But one thing I want to kind of throw in there that I just like want the public's opinion on is small synergy within the actual Marvel. So I'll pull up my reference here. A little bit too big, but X-Men, right? So if we had the X-Men, Cyclops, very underwhelming, right? But if you had a way to have, if you played the X-Men, they had a small bit, like maybe if you have 4 X-Men, you get +1 power to those cards. Or like the Avengers, right? Because like right now you play Black Widow and Captain America, and it's like there's zero synergy. And I think actually people would probably come to expect that there would be. I don't know. I think it's interesting with like X-Men as a whole. It just brings more thematic. What are your thoughts there? It's
kind of like a Murloc archetype. Like the idea that the Murlocs all buff other Murlocs and stuff like that, right? Yeah, I can see that. I think that, there's a design landscape that they could perhaps approach like new card drops, but then like how do you release one card that doesn't interact with any of the others? It'd have to be like a set, or they'd have to do a rework of the X-Men, right? And then start releasing other like no ability cards to replace Cyclops. But who's going to spend 6,000 tokens on a no ability card, right? Like,
right.
Whoa,
it's probably
cool.
it's probably too much. If they did like faction bonuses or something, maybe they could make it work. It'd be a huge undertaking. I just thought it'd be fun and something I maybe.
No, I agree. I think it's a great idea, man. I agree 100%. I think it's a fantastic idea. It is missing from this game. It 100% is missing from this game. Right. Like kind of like those tribe bonuses, right?
It is. It's just kind of weird that like the Avengers, you put them all together and you have like a garbage deck.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's awful. All the Guardians of the Galaxy, same thing. Like you try and build a deck like that, just like, oh, it's so bad. It's like it's just the most tilting deck imaginable. It's like even if you land every single proc, you're still just lose.
Right, absolutely. Well, dude, our last subject is rank and location changes. I'll say the changes first, Alex, then we want to break it down like one at a time. Clearly we've got rank changes now. When you go up the Marvel Snap ladder, instead of going from 40 to 41, you go from 40 to 45. And they want this to help out. It's going to obviously make Infinite a bit quicker, which I think a lot of people are very happy about. But they also did it to alleviate some of the problems with rank. I guess let's start there, Alex. Initial thoughts on the rank adjustments and everything with the season.
First of all, I think it's incredibly important to understand here that like, if we talk about everything we've talked about pretty much today, and on past podcasts as well, the idea that Second Dinner is consistently listening to the community feedback and even like the question answers period, like the fact that they're responding, the fact that they're communicating, the fact that we even know that they're planning future ranked matchmaking changes. Like this is a boon to us. Like this is fantastic for us. And I think that the overall rank change, they said it was experimental. They're not committing to this like long term. I think somewhere there was some qualifying language to say like, hey, we're trying this, right? I think that like it's a decent first step. I was kind of surprised to see like a 50 kind of free cube bonus at hitting a plateau. But with that being said, it does reduce the frustration and the kind of grind element of getting to infinite, or to not just infinite, but just at all, just ranking up, right? And I guess the argument to be made is that if you get those 50 free cubes and you don't have the skill or you don't have the capabilities to continuously rank up, then you'll just stagnate. Like you'll still have to get better. Those cubes aren't just totally free. You're not just going to ride those cubes to the sunset. You still got to earn it, right? But it helps get you kind of going a little bit. It helps get you off that like, well, I'm stuck at 79.
It pads the BS too. Like, like we've all been there where you lose the 1 point power game as an 8 cube, or you lose like a gambit thing and you're like, damn, now I'm back down to 38 or 88 or whatever that might be. I think it pads that a little bit. I will say, what about not doing it at 90? So then you have an influx. You have a lot of people at 90 if that happens. But then it's like, all right, and then you prove it to him. You got to kind of push it a little bit. It felt good at every single tier. And then I'm like, 90, it's like 95 going, like it's like almost there, I guess. And I think it's okay. I thought about it. I'm like, it'd be interesting if they stopped it at 90. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because like 90 is like mega sweat mode, right?
Yeah.
But the thing about it though is that like, in my opinion, the way that the current matchmaking works, 80 through 90 through 100 makes no difference. Like rank 80 to 100 feels exactly the same all through, because you're still matching infinite players. I mean, technically, I believe it was said that you can match to an infinite player above 70. So the difference between 70, 80, and 90 is not as extreme as perhaps it could be once they incorporate some of the additional matchmaking changes that they're planning. But like, I, for one, I don't know how you feel, Cozy, but I was surprised that this was the approach they took. Like, I would not have predicted that 50 free cubes was, and first of all, that much. It's a lot. Yeah. It's like half of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Did that kind of take you by surprise?
Oh, yeah, dude. It was so much that like people wanted clarification, because like, wait, we read it this way? Is this what you mean? Like, and because they kept saying cubes too. I'm like, just say rank. People like say 5 ranks. Don't say 50 cube. People hate math. But yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked that this was their answer for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, people will be okay if, like, they dial it back, right? They're like, hey, guys, this is too much. We're dialing it back to, like, 20 free cubes or something, right? People get too mad about that?
No.
I think they're going to be pretty understanding. Like, this is a pretty big gift, I think.
It depends how many people, like, it helps, like, in the long run after all is said and done. But, and again, for those that are listening and those that are watching, we usually talk about, like, specific cards. I know all subjects are very more, like, analytical approach on the game, but I do think episodes like this are important, Alex. I think it's important to talk
100%.
about the mechanics and things that make the game that we love. And these are all important changes, right, man, at the end of the day. And so the other change that is important, and talk about players' feedback, is locations. And this one, they acted on so much quicker than I thought, and I think they hit it perfectly. Originally, they were going to just remove a hot location. Sundays were going to be dead, and I actually kind of like the hot locations if it's at the right point and it's the right location. But they feature locations, hot locations. They've heard our feedback. Alex, what do you think of the changes? Tell everybody the change, and then what do you think about it?
Yeah, so basically the change is that, first of all, they're going to be 24 hours, right?
Hallelujah.
And yeah, and also, like, from my understanding, they're less frequent, too, because, like, last Sunday, we didn't have a hot location.
Yeah, they're experimenting with, like, skipping as well. Now, there's a con to it we'll talk about in a second, but I got to start out with, oh, my God, guys, the fact that we don't have to deal with a 48-hour plunder castle.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
There's some locations that were so garbage, Morag, that I didn't want to play the game as a content creator, and that's as someone who loves all things. Like, it just sucked. It was not a great element. Now, they did say, though, they want to reduce the amount of new locations coming in, I think by 1. That sucks. I love new locations. I just think you don't have to have them out for 48 hours, Alex. I am a bit disappointed that they are lowering the amount of new locations that come in.
I'm okay with it because I think that, like, right now we're in a situation where, like, I don't want them just forcing locations and to meet some monthly quota.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
If they
That's true.
slow it down, make sure the locations make sense, make sure they have, like, a legitimate impact on the game, make sure that they're fun to interact with. Like, you know, don't just throw out 4 destroy locations because you want to get 4 locations out.
I almost want to retract what I said because honestly, I don't think I'm ever playing Snap. I'm like, you know what? I wish there was some more variance in these locations. Like, I think there's enough variance in the locations. That is very true. But you know what it is though? It's the fun locations versus, like, I just don't know how they let some of these slip through. Like, how there's so many unplayable locations that. What was the one that just came out? The camp.
The peak was one of them that was, like, awful.
Well, that was back at launch. The camp one that came out though, where everyone gets a random 3 cost. Sign me up. That adds a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
The ones that could add some fun elements, or like what we were just talking about, turn your card into a random Avenger at this location. I don't know, something crazy. It's fun as long as it's somewhat rare. But, like, this month had a new ego only on turn 5 that it controls the plays on the board. I'm like. Competitive play number 1, but even casual play, it's just like it's not that fun. So
Quantum Tunnel was a little frustrating too. I think it was like the Lockjaw location.
Yeah, dude. But you know what's so interesting is now this is the second one I think that a meta has spawned from a location. So, like, Quantum Tunnel spawned the Thanos meta because people were forced to play with such a powerful deck as the Thanos Lockjaw, and it happened in the past too, where the location. Actually, I think it was the original Leech leader deck was formed because of a Thor being played on Lamentus. Dude, that's like the path it went down. And so I do love that part. Honestly, I think they did nail it. I think they nail it. If they reduce it a small bit, 24 hours apiece, I don't think you got a lot of complaints there.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is, like, I have a number of friends that, like, do like Marvel Snap. They play relatively casually, and the most they play is on the weekends. And my buddy's like, I can't stand playing on Sunday. Like, I really wish, like, my Sundays when I get to play Marvel Snap, I get to lay on the couch and play for an hour, and I got to deal with this, man. I got to try and figure out a whole new deck just for the day. I got to, like, it was a lot for the casual player, I think.
It's weird on
weekends. And they must have metrics about it too. I wonder if the play rate went down on those days.
Well, Sundays are statistically usually not active days in a lot of places, businesses and as well as maybe games. I don't want to speak for it. But what I will say is maybe they identified Sundays as the slowest day, so they add something to bring a unique feel to the day. Maybe.
Oh, that's another perspective I didn't consider. Yeah, maybe, like, more people just like, hey, let's spice up Sunday. But I would think for gaming it'd be different. Like, more people are off from work, more people are at home.
Yeah, it's funny because you see, like, a double EXP weekend on a lot of games. And is that because more people are playing, or they want to encourage more play when you could be going out and doing something on the weekend? It's interesting.
You're hitting me with some knowledge here. I have no idea. If anybody in the comment section knows, please tell us, because I actually don't know the answer. Cozy, you're, like, completely changing my perspective. This is a paradigm shift of what I thought. I thought, like, weekends were prime gaming time.
Yeah, I think it just also depends on the person, but I would say, like, I don't know. And is it prime mobile gaming time? Probably not.
Oh, it's always prime mobile. That's the whole point of mobile games. It's always prime mobile gaming. You pull your phone out, you're
like
gaming,
Sunday,
my friend.
But you could do that anywhere at any time. Whereas Sunday, if you're like, oh man, I'm gonna put my feet up and play some Marvel Snap, like, yeah, for sure, there's people that do that. But I think that's more console based. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but one thing I will say, Cozy, is, like, even like all the discussions we had today, I think lean towards a Marvel Snap that's getting progressively better. This game is continuously getting better, and I can't wait to see the matchmaking adjustments that they're potentially going to be doing. I can't wait to see the next series drop. which is going to be a week or two from now, right?
Yep.
At least the announcement anyway. I can't wait to see the new roadmap. I can't wait to see everything else that's coming out because we know there's big changes coming. And it's so easy to forget how just young this game is. How young the game is.
I personally, yeah, I love it. I don't have a lot of problems with Snap at the moment. I'm enjoying it, and that is just myself. I get it, but that's the only person I can speak for. Yeah, I still have a great time going in, trying new decks, doing different things. Every game does feel different. And man, if a new game mode comes, Alex, like, chef's kiss.
Yeah, I love this game. I play it because I choose to play it. I play it because I want to play it. I play it because it completely dominates my thoughts. Like, this is when I'm laying in bed at night and I'm having a dream. I'm dreaming about Marvel Snap, and that sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. That is what I dream about. Like, I literally dream decks in my head, and then I build them in the morning, and I'm like, wow, these decks are terrible. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's like I'm so invested in this game. I just love it, and I can't wait. I cannot wait, Cozy. When we talk next March 2024, we're going to look back on this day and be like, do you remember when we thought Leader was the biggest problem?
Hey,
you remember the day when we thought Leech was a problem?
Remember when Leech was in the game? Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah. Remember when Leech dismantled your whole hand? Now it just deletes your game?
Yeah. Wait, Cyclops isn't in the meta right now? Like, what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cyclops is OP. Yeah, nerf Cyclops.
Who knows? What, in a 10-year plan? Dude, don't even get me started.
But thank you guys so much for joining us today, and thank you for all your reviews, all your positive support and comments. Smash the like button, everything else you guys do to support us. It really means a lot to both Cozy and I. And as I said before, guys, right in the middle here, we've got Cozy's video where you can click and you can listen to us talk about buffs and nerfs, the developer question and answer period, and of course, our Marvel Snap wish list. Cozy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, buddy.